Let's keep it real. Most people aren't making six figures. They're making somewhere in between 40 to 60K a year. And they think that that's enough to build wealth, but I'm here to give you the honest truth. That's a lie. If I were making $50,000 a year and I wanted to build long-term wealth, this is exactly how I would do it step by step. No fluff, no lottery tickets, and no crypto hype. This is part one of a full series breakdown on how to build wealth with realistic income. If that's you, then you're in the right place. Now let's get it. Now I'll start off by saying I am not a financial advisor. These videos are for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you are going to invest in the stock market or any other asset, please do your research and consult a legal professional to make sure that you are putting your money to good use the way you want it to be. So let's start with step one. Reset your mindset. Here's what most people get wrong. They think that their income is the problem. But for most people, the income is actually not the problem. It's what you're doing with the income that is the problem. I'm going to tell you something that honestly, you may not want to hear. 50K is enough if you know what to do with it. Wealth isn't built by how much you make, it's built by how much you keep and what it is that you do with it. You have to understand, poor people spend money and rich people buy assets. Now, I understand that there is a difference between a poor person and a rich person, but it starts with the mindset. If you aren't willing to buy fractional shares of companies that are publicly traded, then you can't fathom to go ahead and buy investment properties or businesses or anything else. Step two, I need you to know your real numbers. Let's break it down. 50,000 take home is about $3,500 a month. Now, what you do with that money decides whether wealth gets built or destroyed. Now let's use a baseline budget. Let's say for rent, you have $1,000. For food for the month, $400 from the grocery store. Utilities, transportation, let's say $500. Other miscellaneous things, maybe if you have a child and you have to pay for childcare, $400 a month. What you're left over with is $1,200. Now I understand that if you're in a bigger city, maybe your rent might be another $300 to $500. But let's say it is. Well, then that takes away from the leftover amount. So that brings you down to either $900 leftover or $700 leftover, somewhere in between. Look, what I'm letting you know is that $900 to $700 left over is still enough for you to start working on building your wealth. It's not about how much you have, it's about resetting your mindset, knowing your real numbers, which means your take home, not your gross, right? Because we want to make sure that we're adjusting our life based on what is actually hitting our account, not what we're told our salary is. And remember, most people who make $50,000 a year, their biggest leak for their income is their lifestyle inflation. If you're getting raises quarterly or yearly, however that system works for you and where you work, you have to understand that this is an opportunity for you to build more wealth, not increase your spending habits. Step three, pay yourself first. This one rule changed everything for me. Paying yourself first. You see, most people pay their bills first, then they get their wants, and if anything is left over, then they invest. But I need you to flip that. I need you to invest first. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. First, I'm going to tell you to open up a Roth IRA. This is a tax advantage account. And pretty much what that means is you are investing money that has already been taxed. That money grows interest over time. And when you get older, you can withdraw from it tax-free. Second, I'm going to tell you to automate your investments $100 a week into your Roth IRA. That's going to put you at $400 a month being invested to build long-term wealth. Lastly, you want to treat this like your rent. I'm basically saying that you would never go without paying your rent because you would be stuck on the street somewhere, homeless. I want you to treat your investment account just like this. It's a must that you invest $100 a week into your future. You're not going to be able to work forever. And when you aren't able to work, what are you able to depend on? Well, you're able to depend on money that you have set to the side and allowed to accumulate. That is why this investment account is so important. And the quicker you start, the more that time is able to accumulate and go ahead and have compound interest work in your favor. You'd be shocked at how fast $100 adds up. Remember, there's 52 weeks in a year. So we're talking about $50 to $100 a year that you have set aside for the betterment of your future. Over a course of 10 years, that could be $52,000 that you've invested. Over a course of 20 years, that could be $104,000 that you have invested. And over 30 years, that could be $156,000 that you have invested for your future. That's a lot of money. And also, you're not even accounting for the fact that over time, you're still working on yourself, getting promotions, transferring into different roles, and eventually accumulating more wealth, more assets, and you're just in a better position. Step 4, you're gonna build an emergency fund. Before you go full throttle into investment mode, I need you to build up your safety net. Now, the goal for this is going to be 3 to 6 months of basic expenses. And I need you to put this in a high yield saving account. Now, the reason why I say a high yield savings account is because you can actually earn more interest on your money here, sometimes between 0.35 to 0.45% interest. Now, the reason you want to have this 3 to 6 months expenses put up is because you never know what life will throw at you. Sometimes it's a job loss, sometimes it's some medical expenses, or sometimes it's some car repairs. Either way, whenever life does throw a curveball at you, you are prepared because you've built up this cushion. Another benefit of having your money in this high yield savings account is that when life gets rough, you don't have to pull from your investment account. This money is specifically set aside for emergencies, and your investment account is money that's specifically set aside for you to build long-term wealth. Just think of it like this. As long as you have your emergency fund, you have a confidence fund. That means that you can invest freely because you're confident that if an emergency came up, you have the funds for that. Plain and simple. Step 5, I'm going to need you to invest intentionally. So now that you've been stacking up your money, it's time to invest. Here's what I'd invest in if I was making $50K a year. Number 1, I will put this money into my Roth IRA because that's the tax-free advantage growth. I'd keep it simple and just invest in ETFs. Now you have VTI, that's a total US market. You have SCHD, that's a great dividend ETF. And then lastly, I would do VXUS for some international exposure. I just want to remind you guys that the goal isn't to get rich overnight here. With $50K a year salary, you have to understand that you want to build long-term wealth. And the earlier you start, the quicker you'll get there. You can become a quiet millionaire by as early as your 40s or 50s if you start to invest and you stay consistent and intentional. That is the purpose of what we're talking about here. Now we have step 6. Learn while you earn. Wealth isn't built with just money. It's built with knowledge as well. So I'm going to need you to read at least one finance book a week. On your social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, I need you to follow people who you want to emulate. Not people who flex, people who are teaching investing and finance tips that can put you in a better position and your family in a better position. Lastly, I want you to learn basic tax, investing, and debt management strategies. This will be useful for you in the future because if you can't handle the money that you're making now, then you won't be able to handle the money that you'll make in the future. I came across this quote once. The person who learns how to manage money will always have it. But the person who never learns how to manage money will always chase it. Understand that. Let's recap. So if I was making $50K a year, this is how I build wealth. Not by trying to get rich fast, but by making smart moves consistently. So let's recap these steps one last time. Step 1, mindset first. Step 2, know your real numbers. Step 3, pay yourself first. Step 4, build up an emergency fund. Step 5, you're going to start investing consistently. And step 6, you're going to educate yourself along the way. Part 2 drops next week. I'm going to let you know how to use that $50K a year to increase your cash flow, eliminate bad debt, and grow your overall wealth. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Let me know, how much are you making right now, and what's one thing you're doing to build your wealth? Let's grow together in these comments, guys. So until next time, I'm your host, Marcus, and you're here on Zero to Wealth. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.